Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert Lab. This is the video number 21. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working for about 4 videos working on securing the Windows 10. So there is a couple of recommendations or a couple of PDFs from non-profitable organizations, something like the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. These are 2 non-profitable organizations that have published some PDFs to secure Windows 10, and there is a lot of non-profitable organizations like the Ministry of Defense, something like called CIS, Cyber Internet Security. This is another organization that publish PDFs to secure most of the operating systems and most of the devices. And there is also a recommendation to secure Windows 10 and Windows Server from Microsoft. So there is a lot of PDFs to secure most of our devices and our operating system. So we have been working for 4 videos now on securing Windows 10 using the PDFs or the recommendations by the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. So let's continue in our part 5 of the video, continue working to secure our Windows 10. So where we have stopped the last time we have stopped, we must configure Windows 10 to audit MPSSCV rule level policy change success. What is the MPSSCV? This is something related to Microsoft Protection Service. Okay, so this is related to the Windows firewall. So here this rule, or we need to audit the changing in the rules in the firewall. So we will open an audit option, or we will open a group policy, or we will activate an option to audit the changes in the Microsoft Protection Services or the rules in the firewall. So how we can know what I'm talking about is correct or not? We will go to our website ultimatewindowssecurity.com and then see this entry. Events in the MPSSCV rule level policy change subcategory document the current configuration of the Windows firewall whenever it starts, as well as any changes to its configuration. So let's see one of the events, one of the things, like for example the following policy was active. So if you have created a policy, for example, for inbound connections to block some ports or to allow some ports, this will be recorded. A rule was listed in the firewall and started, so this is a rule in the firewall, or a policy was started, or a rule was listed, a change was made to a rule. The Windows setting was restored. If you reset your firewall, this also will be recorded. For example, the firewall setting was changed, so not the change to the rules, but also to the changes in the firewall setting itself. Okay, not the rules only. Okay, a rule has been ignored. Okay, a group policy was changed. The firewall group policy setting has changed. So if there is any changes related to a group policy that will affect the firewall, also this will be recorded. Firewall active profile. So we all know that firewall works on 3 profiles: the domain profile, the private profile, and the public profile. So these are 3 types, or the domain profile, the public profile, the private profile. These are 3 types of connections the firewall monitors or work with. The domain, this is the one that is related to that the workstation is a part of the domain. Okay, as for private profile, this is when you are at home, so this is the network, or it's a private network. As for the public, this is the one that's when you are at a cafe, or you are connecting to a public Wi-Fi. This is called public network. The most restrictive one, or the most one that the firewall need to monitor and to apply restrictive rules on it, is the public profile. Okay, because this is not secure. Okay, as for the private, it will be less, okay, or it will have some security but not as the public profile. As for the domain, also it should be secured, but the most restrictive one should be the public profile. Anyway, so we will use the audit, or we will configure a group policy to audit and record the changes in the firewall rules or anything related to the configuration of the firewall. So this is it. Let's let's return back to again, not configure detailed. We will go further. So here we will go and audit success. So we need to monitor the successful changes to the firewall rules or configuration of the firewall. So we'll go to the policy change, and then we will audit MPSSCV, which is Microsoft Protection Service. This service is related to the firewall. So let's go to policy change, okay, or MPSS, and then we will configure, okay, the success. Here you're saying that as for the description, it says reporting active policies on firewall, or the report of active policies when Windows Firewall starts, change to Windows Firewall rules, change to firewall exception list. If you have some exceptions to your firewall rules, this is recorded. Change to Windows Firewall setting, rules ignored or not applied by firewall service. So what are the rules that the firewall ignored or it didn't apply? Change to Windows Firewall group policy setting. So this is the same that was written in the website, but anyway, we can see here that it's recording the successful and failure events of such kind of events. Okay, you see if the volume is low, okay, so it does not record a lot of records in the event log. Okay, so this is, we need to apply it to the Windows 10 workstations in our domain. So let's configure it to the success. So here we can see that it will change, or it will apply the rules. Okay, it will audit the firewall rules. So as we can see here that the explanation is well written, so we can know what this kind of audit will do. Okay, and we will audit the successful events. Okay, so this is one. We will audit the successful events, and then we will also log in the failures, or we will audit the failure. Okay, and then we have another thing. We have something to read. So let's continue. As now we will go to the next recommendation is to block or prevent the camera, or to have a lock screen using the camera. Okay, so we will block access to the camera during using. So we will block access to the camera during the using of the lock screen. Okay, so let's see also what does this recommendation say. So if you go and open, first of all we need to block or to prevent using the camera while having a lock screen or our PC. So let's see, this is to prevent enabling lock screen camera. What does this mean? Here we can see enabling camera access from the lock screen could allow for unauthorized use. Requiring login will ensure that the device is only used by authorized personnel. So here is saying that you should disable access to the camera from the lock screen. So as I comprehend from this line, it says that when you are using the lock screen, you can access the camera, and this is not allowed for, or this could compromise your security or login to the device. Okay, or could allow for unauthorized use. So requiring login will ensure the device is only used by authorized personnel. So we will disable this kind of option. Okay, so camera access from the lock screen must be disabled. So let's see how this is done. And he say that if you don't have a camera, so this is not a finding. For example, if you are having, or most of our workstations doesn't have any cameras, so this is not used. It's only used with laptops. Okay, so this is one. Okay, so we will use this group policy with laptops most of the time, because most of the desktops doesn't have any camera. Okay, and then here we need to see something here. If your laptop have a camera, so you need to cover this camera. Okay, so it will not be compromised or hacked by a hacker, and he can use it for his own benefit. So if you are having a camera in your laptop, you should cover it while not used. Okay, so let's see what is this recommendation. Failing to disconnect from collaborative computing devices such as camera can result in subsequent compromises of organizational information. So he's saying if you're not able to disconnect the camera while not in use, or to cover the camera while not in use, this will compromise your security or the device security. So how we can do this? First of all, we all know that the camera in the laptops are its location, it is in the laptop LED, or let's say it's not LED. I will show you the explanation. So for example, the laptop, if we go further here, it will say that the laptop, we all know that the camera of the laptop, it is in the frame of the laptop. Okay, so when you close your LED, the camera will be covered. Let's see here, he will say for us that the laptop cover over slide. Here we're saying that the laptop have a cover slide. So most of the laptops have their camera and they have a cover slide for it. So we need to cover our laptop camera while not in use. Okay, so this is a very good thing to know, because he's saying that operating system does not have camera installed, this is not required. So if your desktop doesn't have the camera, this is not a finding. It's not applicable to mobile devices because where the use of camera is a local AO, or I think what's AO, I don't know actually. So this will not apply to mobiles, because mobiles are not access or don't have access to our admin network. As for the desktops, they doesn't have any cameras. As for the laptops that have access to our admin network, we should cover the laptop camera while not in use. Okay, so this is one of the recommendations. We need to disable accessing the camera while using our lock screen, and to cover the camera while not in use. Or if we have a desktop that has an external camera attached to it, we need to ensure that this camera is disconnected. Okay, so or if you need to disable this option as a whole, so for example, if you need to disable to have camera to be attached to your desktop, we can do this from a registry key. Okay, we'll call him deny. Okay, so we'll have a webcam here, we can see it's deny. I think this is not for the desktop but for the laptop. So for example, if you have your laptop and there is a camera in it, and you need to disable the access to the camera, you can or to close it completely or disable access to it, you can do this from a registry key. Okay, but we will not do this. Okay, we will leave the camera accessible, but you need to cover it while not in use. So this is one of the things. So this is the next recommendation. Okay, to deny access to the webcam through a registry key. Here we can see that the camera must be protected by a camera cover. Example, laptop camera cover slide. Okay, so let's see what is a laptop camera cover slides. Here we can see that this is laptop camera slide. So here we can see this, what we can see, this is a laptop camera slide. So this is the cover. Okay, we can see here that this is the cover, the kind of cover that we are asking about. To put it on the camera or while not in use, to put it something like a stripper or something like, here we can see, okay, here you go, this is one, we can see it like here, something like this. Okay, to have a laptop and to have a cover on it to close it or to slide it to close it. I think my laptop doesn't have like this. I have a Lenovo, but I don't have something like this. You can buy it. So this is one of the recommendations, to have a slide on your camera. Okay, so this is one. I am very lucky to have this demonstrated or to be clarified to me, because I thought that this is something related when your laptop is not, or your camera is not working, you just close the laptop and that's it. Anyway, so if he's saying if the built-in camera is not protected with a camera cover, or the built-in camera is not disabled, this is a finding. So you need to have a slide or a protector. So let's continue. So here we will go, if you need to do this, use the registry, so we will go and create a registry key to disable the webcam for the laptop. Okay, so we will edit a registry key and push this registry key to all of the laptops in the domain through the group policy to disable the web camera as a whole. Okay, so we will not leave it active to the user, we will disable it completely. Okay, this is one of the options if you don't have a cover, or you intend to disable webcams on all of laptops completely. So we can do this using a registry key. So here we can see this is in the local machine registry key, and then we will go local machine, software, then Microsoft, then Windows, then current version. So this is the key. Okay, current version, capability, I think content store, and then we will go to capabilities manager or capability, no, I think content store, yes, and then we will go and connect to the webcam. Okay, and then we need to edit or put a registry key and tell him deny. So we will put a registry key, we will select this one and then we'll change this value from allow to deny. Okay, so this will disable access to or disable the camera. Okay, disable the camera of the laptop. Okay, deny, and then apply and okay, and push this group policy to your laptops. Okay. So this is it. Then we will continue working. So this is the next recommendation. We can go further. The display of slideshows on the lock screen must be disabled. Okay, so we all know that the lock screen could be an image that is not animated, or a still image, or an image. Okay, not an animation. He is saying that we need to disable a slideshow. A slideshow is a couple of images that are run in a sequence. Okay, so this is a slideshow. So he's saying to us you need to disable slideshow. Okay, on the lock screen. Okay, so the lock screen should be one image and it doesn't have any animation. Okay, a still image. Okay, or a fixed image, not an animated image or not a slideshow. Why is this? Because it could display sensitive information to unauthorized personnel. Okay, he's saying that slideshow that are displayed on the lock screen could display sensitive information to unauthorized personnel. So he is saying that the slideshows, which are a series of images that are animated or run in some sequence, this could display some important information. So the lock screen should be one image, okay, that doesn't show any data or show anything related to the PC. Okay, maybe a black image, for example, saying the name of a black image saying welcome or something whatsoever, but the lock screen should not display any sensitive information. And also we should not use the slideshow. So we can do this from the group policy also. So let's go and tell him prevent enabling lock screen slideshow. So we will enable using the camera while lock screen is enabled, and we will disable using slideshow while lock screen is enabled. So we'll go and prevent enabling lock screen slideshow. So here we can see. Okay, also let me show you what is the meaning of a slideshow. So we can see here what is lock screen slide show. What is lock screen slideshow? So have a feature. So let's see here. Windows 10 has a fancy feature called lock screen slideshow, which allows you to play slideshow of images from your pictures library when you lock your PC or tablet. So this, as I said before, a series of images that are run consequently or in a sequence, okay, and they are displayed like a movie or something. So this is what we mean by slideshow. Okay, so let's go and continue working. So we will disable this kind of option, okay, from the group policy. And then the next thing is to, or the next recommendation is to something called IP version 6 source routing must be configured to highest protection. This is something related to the protocols. Okay, one of the most important protocols is IP version 6 protocol. Most of our networks use IP version 4 protocol, but here is saying if you are using IP version 6, you should enable an option called source routing, and this option should be configured to highest protection. Okay, so we need to know what is IP source routing or IP version 6 source routing. Let's go here to what is IP version 6 source routing. IP IP version 6 source uses the routing option to list one or more intermediate nodes or topology group to be visited on the way to a packet destination. So I think this is related to or what is source routing. Let's see here. It's something related when you ping something, or when your data, for example, if you are going to a website or you are talking to another PC in your network, the name of the PC and the IP is listed, okay, in your workstation. Okay, so he's saying here that this list of PCs that the packet travels to, okay, are stored in a routing table or something like this. So this should be secure, because a hacker could know all of the PC names and MAC addresses from this routing table. Let's see what is source routing here. Okay, what is source routing? Source routing is called path addressing. Allows the sender of the packet to partially or completely specify the route the packet takes through the network. So this is what I mean by source routing. Source routing, for example, if PC A is talking to PC B in a network, so PC A will send a packet, or will send the data, or will talk to the another PC B through sending packets or data. Okay, so the sending of the packets of the data will have a specific route or a specific destination or a specific route. This route is recorded in a routing table on the PC. So we need to secure this kind of things. We need to secure the names of our PCs and their MAC addresses, which are stored in the routing table. So we need to secure the source routing. Okay, this source routing, as I said before, will contain all of our PC names and their MAC addresses. Just wait for a moment, guys. Here, let me go again here. So he is saying that we need to secure our IP version 6 source routing. So if two PCs in your network are working with IP version 6, they will talk to each other using this protocol, and to talk to each other they need to send packet data or send data packets. These packets travel through a route or through a way, or a packet or a way or a highway. Let's consider this. These are recorded. Okay, so you in your workstations they will record the path. So for example, if PCA wants to talk to PCB, the workstation will record the route or the way it will reach B. Okay, this is what we call source route or routing. Okay, so we need to configure to secure this kind of data. Okay, the source routing. Okay, we need to secure this. So we will go and do this using a group policy. Okay, we have added the group policy templates for the Ministry of Defense. Okay, we have added to our group policy templates. So we will go and enable something called IP source routing level protection. By the way, guys, be very careful to use something like this, because it is related to one of the most important protocols in your network. So we don't know what how this will affect your network. You need to test this very carefully. Okay, so we will go and configure this option. So we go and configure from SS Legacy, I think this is the one, and then we will configure it to highest protection. So here it protects against packet spoofing. Okay, so the hacker can go and hack the data packets sent between two PCs using the IP version 6, and from this data packets, he can know a lot of things. So we need to secure this kind of packets, and to secure the data concerning these packets, the route from PC A to PC B. So this is one we will disable, or we will enable this kind of option. 2, here we can see we will enable it, and then we will put it to highest protection. So here we will enable this option, okay, and then we will enable this option, and then we will choose highest protection, okay, an option called highest protection. Source routing is disabled, so let's source routing is disabled, okay. So I think here we go, this will be done to IP version 6 and IP version 4, okay. So the two should have this kind of option. So here we can see that also we can go to the Ministry of Defense group policy template, and then we will secure our IP version 4 source routing tables, okay, to highest protection. Source routing is completely disabled. So the packets sent from PCA to PCB will not contain the source routing table, I think, or something related to the source, or it will not contain any data that will reveal any data concerning your routes to the PC. So here we will enable also this for IP version 6 and then IP version 4. So we will do this for both, okay. So now we will continue working. We can do this through a group policy or through let's see, through a registry key. So all of this is done to protect against packet spoofing, okay. Let's see also what is we mean by packet spoofing, okay. Here we can go and see something called packet spoofing. Let's see here what is packet spoofing, okay. What is packet spoofing? So here packet spoofing or IP spoofing is the creation of internet protocol packets having a source IP address with the purpose of concealing the identity of the sender or impersonating another computing system. So it is saying that the hacker will send a data packet using the IP version 4 or IP version 6 protocol, okay. So sending this packet, he use it to know the identity of the sender or the computing system of another PC. So he's just spoofing the PC, sending a packet asking him to give him his sender or to give him important information. So packet spoofing, it's something when a hacker use or send a packet or a data packet to reveal some data or some sensitive data from your network. So this is what I mean by packet spoofing. Just wait for a moment, guys, okay. We have 28 minutes, okay. Anyway, so we will continue. So we will also disable or we will protect our IP source routing, okay, for version 4, IP version 4 and IP version 6. So we will use both group policies. Be very careful to test these two group policies very carefully. Now another recommendation is to configure to prevent the internet control message protocol redirects from overriding open shortest first pass generated routes. This is something related to, I think, the ping command. Anyway, this is a protocol also used. Let me see what is ICMP. So let's go and see what is the protocol of ICMP. What is ICMP? So what is ICMP? ICMP, it is a network layer protocol, okay. What is ICMP? ICMP, it is a network layer protocol used by network devices to diagnose network communication issues. So one of the things is the ping command. So the ping command uses the protocol ICMP to troubleshoot connections or troubleshoot network communication issues, okay. So this is the ICMP protocol, okay, and I think this is part of IP version 4 protocol. So here what he's saying here, let me see, or let's see what he mean by this, or what he mean by this kind, or by enabling this option. We will go and see the description of this group policy, okay. So he's here, he's I think he is securing or he is hardening the ICMP protocol. Anyway, we'll see. We will go and see this group policy. What does it talk about? So here we need to disable this option. We will also do this from the Ministry of Defense group policy template. So let's go and see where is this one. It is here it is. This is ICMP redirects to override OSPF generated routes. I think maybe we need to search for this protocol, or search for this to explain it more. So let's see. I think it is let's go a little bit further and test it, or see what we mean by allow ICMP redirects to override OSPF generated routes. Allow. Okay, let's go here and search for this. Allow ICMP. Okay, let's see here this connection. ICMP redirects allow ICMP redirects to override OPSF shortest path. Okay, well, this is one. Let's see this description from here. This is from the website of the Ministry of Defense, but it is not described here. This is the Ministry of Defense website. Configure on share. Let's see here one of the things also. Configure the system to ensure IP routing via the shortest path first. Okay, this is one of the things. The ICMP is redirected. The DOFS generated is overridden for enterprise clients environment. Enable it. Okay, enable something like this. We need to have more explanation about this. Let's say what is. Let's say here what is. So let's go here. There must be configured to MSS. Okay, I think anyway, if anyone is using the CCNA, or is one of the, or you have studied CCNA, I think this is more related to CCNA issues. Anyway, so we will pass this one. We need to disable it, and as I said before, be very careful when you are working with protocols in your network. You need to test these kind of group policies. Anyway, another thing here is to ignore NetBIOS names, releases, requests except from wins. What is NetBIOS? NetBIOS, this is the name of the PC. It's called NetBIOS. So if I have my PC named as Karim, this is called NetBIOS name of the PC. So what is the full domain name of the PC? It is the name of the PC plus the domain. So my PC is called Karim, and we have the domain called redalert.internal. Okay, so my full domain name is karim.redalert.internal. This is the full domain name. What about the NetBIOS name? This is Karim only. Okay, so he's saying that you need to configure the system to only respond to NetBIOS names, okay, that are from the Wins servers, request, or that is coming from the Wins servers. Okay, so what he's saying is to ignore. He's saying that you only need to accept requests from the Wins servers using NetBIOS name. I have discussed this before. The Wins is something like the DNS, but it was used in old days before the DNS. Okay, it is something, or it is used on older versions. The Wins, it is simply you give him the PC name, or the PC NetBIOS name, which is Karim in this case, and then he gives you the IP address of the machine. Okay, this was used before the DNS or on older versions. So he is saying here that you need to configure your group policy to accept requests by NetBIOS names only coming from the Windows server. So for example, if any other program asking or giving a request to give you or to give the IP address of a machine using the NetBIOS name, you need to decline it or to ignore it. Only accept requests to change or to give the IP of the machine by using the name of the machine. We all know that we need to give the Windows server the name of the machine so he can give you the IP address of the machine. So this will only be done using the Windows server. So if there is any other device or any other hacker trying to request to give the IP address of a machine using the NetBIOS name, this will be ignored. Okay, it will be only accepted from authorized Windows servers in your network. Okay, so this is one of the things also. You need to be very careful using these kind of things. Okay, take care because it may affect your network. So let's go here. This help you to prevent some of the hackers attack called DOS or denial of service attack. Okay, so this is one of the things we need to go and configure this group policy. All of these are added, or this is from the group policy template of the Ministry of Defense, okay, of the United States. So we will go and configure this option here to we will go and tell him allow the computer to ignore NetBIOS release from requests except Windows servers. Okay, so let's continue. I think we will need to disable or enable, I don't know. Let's go here to enable it. Okay, so we enable this option, then we will continue. Then here is saying that local accounts or local administrator accounts must have privileged token filter to prevent elevated privileges from being used over the network on domain systems. So you cannot, or he is saying that when, for example, if you log in with a standard user account to a machine locally, okay, and you need to run a program, but this program needs administrative rights, so it is prohibited or it is forbidden to open this program using elevated privileges. So for example, if you are using Kareem as a standard user to log into a machine, and then there is a program that you need to run within the login, or to run the program with the standard user account of Kareem, you can right click the program and tell him to run as different user, and when you use this option it will ask you for a username and a password. This kind of process should be prohibited. You should not do this, because as soon as you do this, this password and username will be saved to the SAM database of this workstation, or it will be saved to the workstation. So any hacker can, if he hacked the user of Kareem, he can know your password or know the local administrator password. So this should not be done, okay, because this will reveal your local administrator password. He is saying that, let's see the description, or see the see what does it say. He sees that a compromised local account can provide means for an attacker to move literally between domain systems. Okay, but if you are using Microsoft Labs solution, the password of the local administrators will be changed frequently on the machines, and every local administrator account on every machine will have a different password than the other local administrator account on the other machine. Okay, so this is also one of the things to take in mind. So with user control, access control enabled, filtering the privilege token for built-in administrator accounts will prevent the elevated privileges of these accounts from being used over network. Anyway, so we need to disable this kind of option. We don't need to have elevated privileges. Okay, let's see how we can do this from the group policy also. So we'll go this, or we can do this by enabling user account control. Okay, so we will not be able to use, and this system is not a member. So he is saying if the system is not a member of a domain, this is not available. So if you are working in a worker group, this will not be an issue. Okay, but you are in a domain, you should disable elevated privileges for the local administrator account. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. We'll do this from the group policy. So if you can go and then tell him apply UAC restrictions to local accounts on network logins. Okay, this is so if you have a local administrator account on a machine and this machine has logged a domain, you should disable elevated privileges for the local administrator account within a domain, okay, not within a work group. Okay, so we'll do this and we will tell him to disable, or what we say, to enable restrictions to local accounts or network logins. Okay, we will do this. As we can see here that this group policy templates are very useful. It gives you a couple of the most important group policies that you can use. Okay, so here the saying that this setting controls whether local accounts can be used for remote administration via network login. Local accounts are at risk for credential theft when the same account and password is configured on multiple systems. Enabling this policy significantly reduces this risk. Okay, so we will enable it. Applying, so it is saying that you can use the local accounts to remotely access workstations through network. Okay, and these local accounts could be compromised, and if you are accessing multiple PCs using local accounts, this should compromise, or this could compromise your network. Just a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Here, as I said before, we need to disable elevated privileges for local accounts, okay, on workstations. So this is very, very critical because it could be used, or this could compromise the local account password, especially if it's a local administrator password. As we can see here from the description, that local accounts could be used for remote administration using remote desktop, for example, via network login or in a domain. Okay, so local accounts are at high risk for credential theft or password theft, okay, which when the same account and password is configured on multiple systems. Okay, so enabling this policy significantly reduces that risk. So we will enable this. Okay, so if we enable this option, applies UAC token filtering to local accounts on network logins. Membership in powerful groups such as administrators is disabled, and powerful privileges are removed from the resulting access token. This configures the local account token property value to 0. This is default behavior for Windows. I think this is relating to this means disable elevated privileges. Anyway, we will continue. Let's see. I think you need to enable this policy. So this is the recommended one to enable it. Apply UAC token filtering, okay, or user access control filtering to local accounts. Okay, you all know the user access control. This is something that pop-ups when you need to run some application or software with administrative privileges. Now this is a protocol that should be disabled on your domain. This is called W digest authentication must be disabled. Okay, so this is a protocol. It is used for authentication. Authentication means that if you need to verify that this user have a correct username and password and he's a member in a domain, this is called authentication. So this process is done using Kerberos protocol, but there is some older protocol, something like WGIST. It's also used for authentication. Okay, so we need to disable this protocol because the passwords used to verify, so for example, if there is a user, I need to verify his password, it is sent on the network in plain text. It is not encrypted. As for the Kerberos, I think the Kerberos, the password is sent to the domain controller to verify it, but it is encrypted. Okay, so we need to disable WGIST because it doesn't encrypt the password in the verification process or in the authentication process. Okay, so it is disabled by default in Windows 10, but we need to see, or we need to go and see this this protocol is disabled or not. I think it's already disabled in the default domain policy as well, but we will go and see. Okay, so we need to go and see if this protocol is disabled or not. Okay, and also it should be disabled in the whole network, not only for the workstations but also for the servers as well. So if we go to the default domain policy, I think I will need to go and see the default domain policy. Anyway, we will check this WGIS if it is disabled or enabled from the registry. Okay, so we will go and right click and run and then registry, and then we will check the registry key to see if the WGIS protocol is enabled or not. So we'll go to this path. Okay, this path I think in system current control set, and then control security providers WGIS. Let's see. So it will go in I think system control set, or I think security providers security providers, and here is security providers, and then WGIS. Okay, and say let's see here if the user control, if we have this key use login credential 0, this means that the WGIS is disabled, but here I think it's not disabled. Okay, let's see, here we don't have this, so let's go and disable it from the default or from the group policy. We need to disable it by the group policy. So let's go and see how we can disable it. You see, if this registry key is not existed or not existing or configured, this is a finding. Okay, this means the WGIS protocol is enabled. If this key is not available, it's not there. So we need to go and disable this protocol. Okay, so also this you can do it from the group policy provided by the Ministry of Defense, which is WGIS authentication disabled. But I think this is this group policy, it's already in, or group policy template is already in the normal Windows server templates. Let's see and go and see if this protocol is disabled or not. So we'll go to the group policy and I think this is in the default Windows Server group policies. Okay, or group policy templates. Anyway, we can disable it from the Ministry of Defense templates. So we can tell him WGIS disabled. Okay, the patch referenced in the policy title is not required for Windows 10. So he said that you need to install a certain update to make this group policy in effect. So let's return back a little bit. So here is saying that you may, or disabling may require to remove a certain update from the Windows. This does not apply to Windows 10. Okay, so the patch referenced in the policy title is not required for Windows 10. So you don't need to remove this update from Windows. Okay, you just need only to disable the group policy, and that's it. Okay, so we need to WGIS and make it disabled. Okay, we open the group policy itself and tell him to disable the WGIS, not to disable the group policy. You need to open the group policy and choose the option of disabled. Okay, so let's continue. Then there is another thing, is to disable the run as different user. So as I said before, if you are logged in with a standard user on a machine and you need to run a program with full administrative rights, you can right click the program, right click the icon of the program, an option will appear for you called run as different user. When you click on it, it will give you a username and a password field. So put your local administrator or local or administrative password, put it in the username and the field of the password, and then you can run the program using the different user credentials. Okay, this should be removed from context menu. So if you right click any program, the option of run as different user should not be there. So we will do this also using a group policy to disable this from appearing from context menus. We mean by context menus, this, if you right click on something like this, this is context menu. Okay, so if we right click here, this run as different here you can see something like run as different user. If I right click on this and then shift and right click, you will see something run as different user. Okay, I have right click and press shift, you see run as different user. Need to remove this from what is called, this is called context menu. Okay, so let's see how this will be done. This I think will be done using a group policy, or you can make it by a registry key, but I think the Ministry of Defense template provided such a group policy ready for you. You just need to enable it and that's it. So we will go and see, yes, the Ministry of Defense templates contains remove run as different user from context menus. This is very useful one, because it was previously done using registry keys, but now it is a group policy. So it's a ready-made group policy that will help you to disable run as different user from the context menu. So we'll go and enable this option. So we will enable it and that's it. So why you need to disable or enable such option to remove run as different user from the context menu? Because if we run programs using administrative accounts from a standard user login, okay, this will compromise our local administrator password, because it will be saved to the machine and the hacker can get it. Okay, so this is why we need to disable such option. Insecure logins to an SMB server must be disabled. When you share a folder on a file server, sharing the folder and accessing the clients to this shared folder, all of this are done using SMB protocol. Okay, so we need to secure this protocol, or we need to secure the access to the shared folders on our file server, which use the SMB protocol. It is sometimes the file server is called SMB server. Okay, so you can call a server that have folders shared on it as file server or SMB server, the same. So we need to disable insecure logins to our SMB server. Okay, so this is an option that we need to activate. Insecure guest login allows authentication access or unauthenticated access to shared folders. Shared resources on a system must be required authentication to establish proper access. What we mean by this? There is some kind of access, so you can share a folder on your file server, okay, and you do not require a username and password to access them. Okay, so this is what we call insecure logins. Okay, but as for the secure logins, when you access a shared folder on a file server, you should provide a username and password. This is the secure login. But someone asked me why we don't see this in a domain. Okay, so why we don't see this in a domain? I shared folders to my Active Directory users on a file server, and I am not prompted for a username and a password, because this is done in the background. Okay, this is done in the background. If you are a user in the Active Directory and you have a valid username and password, you will be authorized to access files shared on the file server. But if you are not authorized, or you don't have a correct username and password on our domain or on our Active Directory, you will not be able to access the file server. So accessing the file server, it is done, or it is only authorized, or you are only allowed to access folders on the file server when you are authenticated on the domain. Okay, so there is some kind of shares you can tell users to access it even if they are not in the domain. So for example, if you share a folder, okay, and you allow anyone to access it, so you don't need to have a password, or you don't need to have a user to be in a domain. So for example, you can share a folder, anyone in the domain or outside the domain can access it. So this is called insecure logins. We need to disable this kind of option. Only access to the folders will be to authenticated users in the domain. Okay, so this is it. Let's see how we can do this. So he is saying that this option does not include, or this version of Windows does not include this option. So if you have this kind of option, or sorry, if you have this kind of Windows, you will not find this option on it. So you will not find this in Windows 10 version 17.05 LTSB. Okay, this is one of the versions of Windows. This is very old and it's not used anymore. Okay, so let's see how we can allow this or to disable insecure logins to our SMB server. Okay, let's see how we can do this. This can be done from the group policy, administrative templates. So let's go and see how this is done. So if we go to the computer configuration and then go to administrative templates, and then first of all we need to check if it is already enabled in through the registry. If we can check the registry to see if insecure logins are disabled. So let's go to this path, I think in LANman or Windows and then LANman. Okay, so let's go and see if insecure logins are disabled or not. So we can go to local machine, software, policies, Microsoft, Windows, LANman. Then we go to LANman, or I think Windows or LANman, I think. Well, this is not the correct path. It is Microsoft policies, Microsoft Windows, LANman workstation. So anyway, I think it's not in my registry, so I think we need to, I think this or my version of Windows doesn't have this option available. But anyway, we will do it through the group policy, through administrative templates, computer configuration, administrative templates, network, LANman workstation. So we will close this and then we will open the computer configuration, not Windows components, network, yes, administrative templates, Windows components, sorry, I think administrative templates, network. Then LANman workstation, enable insecure logins. This will be disabled, so we'll disable this option. Okay, so you will disable this option. Insecure logins mean that you can access a shared folder without providing a username or password, or if you are not authenticated. So if you are not authenticated, you can access the folder normally. Okay, this is called insecure guest logins. Okay, so we will do this, we will disable this option, so any access to our shared folder should be authenticated and should have a username and password provided, okay, to access the folder. Anyway, so he's saying here that sometimes some NAS storages, network attached storages, these are storages through network. You can access a storage, a usage storage through network and put your data on it. Sometimes some network attached storage use this kind of options to access the folders on it. So for example, you can have a file server and you share folders on it, so this is secure. Or you can have a storage or a device called NAS storage, you can save files on it and share them. So this kind of storages use this option, insecure guest login. So you need to take care, you need to have this option disabled and to see if your NAS storage to disable this kind of access to your NAS storage. Okay, so let's see here. We will go and disable this option, and upcoming I think the upcoming options or the upcoming recommendations will secure the access to our shared folder. So the first thing is to disable SMB or insecure login to our SMB server. Here we can see that internet connection sharing must be disabled. What is internet connection sharing? If you have a group of PCs, okay, one of them have access to the internet, so he can share his internet connection to his fellow computers. So this is called internet connection sharing. So we need to disable this on our network. Sometimes the user can have, for example, an existing internet connection, he can share it through a hotspot, or he can make a hotspot and share his connection to other users. So we need to disable this kind of option. So for example, maybe a user have a laptop, for example, and he have a Wi-Fi, he can share his access or his internet access to the other users. We need to disable this, and actually we need to disable Wi-Fi when the laptop is in an admin network. We will see that in upcoming recommendation is to disable Wi-Fi when the LAN or the wired connection is working. Okay, anyway, so we'll disable the hotspot or we'll disable internet connection sharing. Let's see how we can do this using a group policy. So we'll go and tell him prohibit use of internet connection sharing on your DNS domain network. Okay, so this should be done to all of the workstations and laptops in my domain. So no internet connection shares internet connection sharing is allowed through the domain. The laptop should not share any internet connection while he is in the admin network. He can go home and share his network, share his internet connection, but during his sitting in the domain admin network or the admin networks, he should not share his internet connection. So let's go and tell him to prohibit use of internet connection sharing. Okay, this option. Let's see first how much time we have. So we have 1 hour. Okay, yes, we can continue. Anyway, so prohibit use of internet connection, okay, sharing on our file on our domain, and we will enable it. Okay, this is one. And then we should go to something called harden UN paths must be defined to require mutual authentication and integrity. So here we are saying, remember that we have said that any access to our shared folders should be secured and authenticated. We all know that the access to our shared folders on the network, it is already authenticated using the Active Directory authentication, but we need to harden a little bit. So we need to have the paths or the shared folder paths to be hardened. This is something called hardening UNC or hardening unified network paths, something like this. Anyway, so this is additional security requirements applied to universal naming convention or passes specified in hardening UNC passes before allowing access them. This isn't preventing tampering or spoofing of the connections to these passes. Anyway, so when you share a folder, you have a path. Okay, a path. The path is something like the name of the server, then the name of the folder. Okay, this is called path. So this path should be hardened or should be secured. We will do this using this group policy, or to activate this group policy. At least he doesn't tell you to secure all of your shared folders or all of your paths to your shared folders, but at least to secure the access to the sysvol folder and the net login. This is very important two folders in our Active Directory. One that contains our group policy templates and it is shared, so all of the users or all the computers can access and apply the group policy, and the net login folder. This is a folder that contains our Active Directory login scripts that is applied to all our users. So both paths should be accessed by all of our workstations in the domain, and this should be secured from tampering or from hacking. So we need to secure these two shared folders in our domain. So at least we need to secure them. Okay, so we will secure them using a group policy. Okay, so let's see how this can be done. So we will go and open our group policy and harden our paths to our two most important shared folders, the sysvol folder and the net login folder. Okay, the sysvol folder contains all of our group policies templates, and the group policies applied to our domain. So this should be available for the computers and users to go and read it and apply it. And as for the net login, it contains the Active Directory login script, so users should be able to access it to apply the Active Directory login script. Here we can see that the hardening paths are not enabled, so we need to enable this option from the group policy. So let's go and see how this is done. We'll go to computer configuration, administrative templates, network providers, hardened UNC passes, and tell him to enable and put or to secure access to these two shared folders, or the most important two shared folders, and put this setting. So let's see how this will be done. So if we go to network, I think provider, yes, network provider here. It's network provider, yes, harden UNC, and then here we can see harden UNC passes. Okay, so here we need to go, we need to do this also not on workstations but on servers as well, so we can do this using the default domain policy. So we will not only apply this to workstations or a group policy that it is applied to workstations, but we do this also for the default domain policy that is applied to all of our computers and servers. So this should be done to all computers in my domain. So we go to network and then go to network provider and then harden, and then we need to open it and configure this setting to require mutual authentication. Here, to access this folder you require mutual authentication and require integrity. So access to this folder should be done when the user have a correct or a valid username and password in my domain. So this require mutual authentication, okay, and require integrity. Anyway, these options will secure the access to our shared folders, or the most important two folders shared in our domain. So we'll do this, we'll go to create it, or we will open and then put the value. So we'll tell him to harden the P's or UNCs and then to enable, and then we will tell him to enable and then show, okay, and then we will put the folder path, okay, and then the value. So we'll tell him to go, asterisk here means everything in the sysvol folder, so every path in the sysvol folder or any subfolder in the sysvol folder should be secured. So here we can see that asterisk means anything in sysvol folder should be the value to be require mutual authentication and require integrity. So we'll do this, copy it, okay, and do this is first entry to secure access to our sysvol folder. So we have the name and then the value to require mutual authentication and integrity, and then this is one, and then to add another one for the other folder, which is net login, and then we will require the same authentication, require authentication, and then we will do this and apply and okay, and then I think we need to stop at this one. So we will stop at this recommendation, which is Windows 10 must be configured to prioritize ECC curves with longer key lengths first. This is the minute number 46:44 seconds. We will stop here and continue in the upcoming video or part 6. Hope this video was informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.